episode of GovTech Today. I'm Russell Lowery.
And I'm Jen Saha.
And together we're going to try and bridge the gap between .com and .gov. We're continuing our building block series. I've learned a lot from the previous ones, and today we're going to talk about an important part of the procurement process, but a really frustrating one, and that is the reference process. So
it's such a bad word. It gave me chills when you said it.
What is the reference process in the procurement process?
So there's a few different perspectives on references. There's a few different areas where they're required in great detail. So the first is company project references, right? If you are bidding on a project, I want to know that your company can do it. I want to know that you have done it. And frankly, that those went really well. And so there are always those company references that we're going to require whenever you're bidding on something. And I'm going to call the people that you list as a reference, and I'm going to make sure that you did do a good job on them.
Those are companies that I've done this previous work, private sector companies that I've done this.
Or government. Okay. It could be another government. A lot of times they'll require, like, hey, we want to know that you've done this in a government setting.
Got it.
So we want you to list what other governments you're doing this type of project work in. And we're going to call them, and we're going to make sure that you actually are doing that kind of work, and that it's on schedule, it's on budget. And we want to know someone that we should call at that department or agency. Problem there is, like, people move around, right? People retire, people move on. So I don't know that I'll be able to get that specific person on the phone that you perform the work for at, whatever, Indiana Social Services Department on the phone to be able to verify it. My argument, I'm not going to listen on there unless they're going to give me a good review.
Right.
Like, that's just common sense. I'm not going to put, you should call Linda if I'm not sure Linda's going to give me a good reference, right? This is even when we apply for jobs. Like, don't list a boss that hated you. Right?
Right. You check. You check to make sure they're going to give you a good reference before you put them on. Right.
The other problem with it, and we see this a lot in cybersecurity, is sometimes they're not allowed to disclose that they've been working somewhere, right? Like, if you helped a department cover up a massive breach, guess what? We're not going to list that department. We're not going to tell you to call them. They will sue us. Right. We can't get a reference from it. This happens a lot in security and cybersecurity and aerospace. Some of it is classified. So that aspect of it also becomes really difficult. I've seen companies get disqualified because, well, we're the department. We called them twice. They never called us back. Sorry, you're disqualified. We're not sure that you actually did this work.
Well, especially in the tech space and an evolving tech space, somebody that you did work for 4 years ago could be a competitor.
Could be a competitor, could be retired, could be dead. This happens.
But if somebody wanted to, you did good work, they were happy with it, but now they're a competitor and they want to not, if they don't want to say something negative about you, they can squat. It's disqualifying if they don't return a phone call?
It's disqualifying if they don't return the phone call. So as a company bidding, I'm not going to list them. And am I really giving the best picture of the great work I did if I'm, like, excluding people here and there because of these technicalities, really?
I would love to know what the ratio of disqualified bids to negative reports is. You've probably disqualified thousands in the last decade, and I'd be shocked if you got more than a dozen. Like, the worst references, having worked in HR and given, if it was a terrible employee, are they they are eligible for rehire?
Right?
That is
no. I mean, I have never in my 15 years of looking at government procurements seen anything but 5 stars. Right? If they are not 5 stars, I'm not listing them.
Right.
So what's the point, right? What's the point? Why am I even listing them? Why am I making the state waste time trying to track down random people? Like, I feel like what would be better is, like, list the budgets, list how much, these projects cost, give us a project description, and let us know if it was successful.
Or could you have attestations where if you're trying to verify that they have experience and satisfied customers, if I can get a letter, an attestation, and then I can just submit that
Sure.
every
Over and
time,
over and over.
or
Yeah.
just get, hey, I've given you this, now you've got it on file. I don't have to do it every single
Yeah.
time I bid a project with the state as part of my registration with the state. I'm cleared in this area. I've submitted referrals in this area and I can check the box.
So I think the state actually is working towards that exact idea. And what they're trying to sort of mitigate there is I got to call the same 10 people every time I
Right.
do a bid. Like Joe Smith is my go-to for this great project we completed. I'm bidding these projects all over the state, local government. Joe Smith is getting berated with calls asking about if I am truly great the way I said I was great. Of course, Joe's going to say you're great, and he's going to get pissed off because you keep sending people to call him and bug him. Joe has a job. Like, he is trying to implement the project that you guys worked on with him. So, I mean, I do think the solution is either, get it done once and use it, rinse and repeat, use it over and over again. You don't have to call Joe Smith. It's
Right.
fine. We see here you listed this, and then just call it done. And frankly, you don't need to ask for project references. Just ask bidders, hey, how many projects of this size, general scope has your company done and completed through implementation? Give us a list. Tell us if they were states, because that matters too, right? Like,
right. And working in government is not the same as working in private sector.
Exactly right. Like
relevant experience.
Yeah. Give me a list of relevant projects that are similar in size and scope to this project. And I'm going to look at that list. I'm going to say, yep, these guys, they've got some chops. This other list may be a lot shorter. Maybe they're smaller governments that they did work in.
I score it and I make a decision.
I score it. I make a decision. I don't have to bug anybody. The vendor is submitting them. I know it's true. I'm taking them at their face value that they're submitting something that can be verified if I ever do need to go back and do it, but calling it done.
Right. And so you mentioned company, and it goes to individual and project too. Are they overlapping? Are they instead of? How does that
Oh, yeah.
look?
It's in addition to. So let me paint a scenario for you, Russell. You are Russell Lowery Construction Company. I'm a homeowner. I want you to come in and renovate my kitchen. Nice to meet you. Awesome. Here's the job generally. I need tile. I need flooring. I need lighting. I want you to give me references for every individual you're going to have working on this project. I want to know that the grout guy has done 5 years worth of grouting in kitchens of similar size and scope using similar kind of grout as what we're going to be using for this project. I'm also going to tell you, and this kind of puzzles me, and probably another building block discussion, I'm going to tell you that I need the grout guy for 73 hours. I've done that math, not you, Russell Construction Company that's doing this. Me, homeowner, has done the math. It's going to take him 73 hours to do what I need him to do. Not only do I want the grout guys stuff, but I want to see resumes for every single person working on this project. The grout guy has to have performed 3 jobs. The tile guy needs to have laid the specific kind of tile in 5 kitchens. I want contacts at each of those kitchens. I'm going to call all of those other homeowners and ask them how the tile guy performed and how the grout guy, I'm going to call those references to how the grout guy performed. And I also want to see certifications. I want to know that the tile guy is certified in tile laying for my kind of thing. I'm going to need them to disclose what their investments are, actually. Like, I want them to submit a form to me telling me if they're invested so that I know that they're not trying to game the system and game me and get me to buy certain kinds of tile because they own stock in that tile company. Also, if any of these guys are going to use more than the 73 hours that I've said that they're going to use, it's going to be a change order down the line. So our project cost cannot be changed based on anything. And Oh, by the way, we're not planning to start this project for 18 months because it's going to take us a while to get through all of this. But I don't want you to swap any of those guys out. Like if I approve this grout guy, I'm paying you for this grout guy. I don't want any other grout guys. So get back to me with that. And I'm going to spend a lot of my valuable homeowner time calling all of these people's references, verifying that what they've listed is exactly what they did. So it's going to be a huge burden on me too, but it's worth it to make sure I'm getting the A team and getting what I paid for.
Wow. I mean, the number of people who would submit to that process, I know, I mean, it was just an example, but they're getting a kitchen remodel to get out and get a bid is a challenge, and it would evaporate under those requirements. And I'm sure that burdensome process is reflected in the prices that the state is paying. You're going to get limited bid community, and they know that the administrative cost of just administering that response and making sure the billing for the proposal matches what you've agreed to in a proposal from years ago, you're going to pay for that contract administration cost.
It's a huge burden on the state, on the government that's procuring this, on the homeowner in our scenario. And that's even if you haven't run screaming as the contract. Can you imagine like any contractor being like, yeah, sure, we'll get you all of this. We'll hand you a 500-page document. No, like it's just not the way it works in so many areas of our society that it sort of baffles me that everyone's just okay with it here. Is
that a legal requirement? What is the
No, I mean it's the state trying to make sure they're getting the A team and trying to ensure that they're getting the A team. They want to be extremely prescriptive on who they're working with and what those people are capable of. I haven't seen it done this way
I understand that if you're doing that on the screen on the deliverable. But why are you doing that on the screen on the qualifications and background and individual as opposed to, I think of it as, I don't want to talk, I want to hold my general contractor accountable. That's the person who selected the individual pieces, and I have a contract with him that he doesn't get paid if he doesn't deliver the goods.
I mean, this is kind of how it works.
That seems like a one throat to choke would make it make it easier.
That's how it works in many governments. Actually, that's how it works at the federal government. They bid a pool of qualifications. So, yes, our team will have a collective 10 years experience doing tile and a collective 15 years experience doing this, but it's not down to the individual because you have to remember too, like, when people bid these guys, they're not actually going to be going to work on the project for 12 to 18 months. How many of those people can you afford to just have sitting on the bench waiting for the call for the next 12 to 18 months? If they're truly the A team,
right,
they're going to be in high demand to go on any number of projects. So by the time you actually start working, a number of those guys are swapped out anyway. And at the federal level, they're okay with that. Great. As long as you're bringing in someone with equal qualifications to the collective team, or even if you have to bring in two people to meet the qualifications of that one guy that dropped out, we don't care. As long as the team as a whole is qualified.
Qualified in delivering a product that I like, where there's some flexibility. Is this just litigation? Like it only becomes a problem if the state's dissatisfied with the product and then they go looking to make sure or that all the things, because it seems like you've gone through this project and then one of the people got promoted from one company to another and now they're not doing that kind of work anymore. They were an enterprise cybersecurity consultant and they got promoted to cybersecurity architect and engineer. And
I think a lot of it is fear of failure, right? And I understand that. We've had some big failures. The state has to be okay with loosening the reins a little bit in order to find a better way to do it.
So what happens? You've got client and they're not going to take a huge risk if they've agreed to do X and now they can't perform because that person died
Right.
or quit or got fired.
Yeah.
Maybe their credentials look great, but their work was terrible, so I fired them.
Yep.
What happens at the end of that procurement? At the end, now we've submitted that and it was true when we submitted it, and now it's time to work and it's no longer true. I've got a different person in that seat.
There's a process to swap out staff on any project. It has to be mutually agreed to by everybody.
Got it.
But it's a process, right? It's onerous. It's difficult.
Seems like an enormous waste of time and effort, but also added expense
on both parties.
On both parties, right?
Yeah, my clients tell me anecdotally that like 80% of the effort on putting together a bid falls into this references kind of category.
Wow.
I mean, it's hundreds of pages. You figure some of these big projects have key staff of, maybe 15 people. 15 people times 10 references per person, within the last 10 years, and this many people. What a burden on everyone. And I mean, my point is like, well, we have to do it. Why? No, we don't.
Right.
No, we don't. Let's just have a little faith and a little trust in each other. And if the concern is, well, you're not going to get the A team and we're going to have a lot more project failures, let's test out that theory. Let's maybe do a proof of concept. Let's do a pilot where instead of doing individual references, we just ask for a team with X years of experience. Let's let it ride and see over time if we're leading to more project failures. If that's the case, sure, maybe we need to rein it back in. But I have a sneaking suspicion, because it works everywhere. It works in the federal government. If it works for the feds, it surely should work for us. I'm not comparing us to like Idaho or Massachusetts. No disrespect to those guys. But like the feds do it this way, and it works pretty well for them. So let's give it a shot.
Well, from your lips to some listeners' ears, let's hope that we can or drive a process that gets them to reevaluate, because it seems like it's just costing the state a lot of money.
It is. And when it costs the state a lot of money, it costs the taxpayers a lot of money.